Alright guys, long video here, Coaster talking about the Canucks and Sharks, round one. Stanley Cup playoffs are here, and first of all, it's good to see this team make it. It came through a rough stretch, but after getting rid of Douglas Murray, this team became better. I know Penguin fans won't understand, but he was the one who was a liability on defense. I've heard he's done well out there, the grit. We may have lost some grit and physical abilities with Klo and Murray being gone. But we picked up Rafi Torres. He's actually been good since we picked him up. He's made some big plays, I think, in getting this team to the playoffs and where they are. Because if it weren't for him, this team might have been 7th or 8th in the table. So, hey, it is what it is. This team is playing the Canucks. A doable first-round matchup. I know some people don't want to see this team. Some people do. It really varies. But let me just break it down here. The goaltending should be pretty even. Corey Schneider, Antti Niemi, both having pretty solid years. Niemi should be in the Vezina conversation. I don't see how he isn't in the conversation. I'm not being a homer here. He should be in there. I think Sergei Bobrovsky should be the other guy, but who knows about that. Goaltending should be pretty even. The bottom six is where everything gets very, very interesting. It's guys like Rafi Torres versus Zach Kassian. Who's going to come through there? I think Scott Gomez for us on the bottom six has been good. We cannot bench certain players. I really don't want to see, maybe I can only dream here, but Adam Burris, I wish we wouldn't see him. I wish we'd be seeing a little bit more of Scott Gomez, Tommy Wingels, a little bit of Desjardins, and even a little bit of James Shepard on occasion. I'd be okay with that. But a little bit of Burris, I think he's been a disappointing pickup. I'm not really thrilled over him on the ice. I think their bottom six, though, it's good, not great. I think Janik Hansen, somewhere on that team, is there. The top forwards. Obviously, they were a forward-heavy team with the Sedins. You got Burroughs. You got, of course, Ryan Kessler coming back from injury. I know that's huge for them. They're gonna be pretty dangerous, and I think our top six matches up pretty evenly with them. So the top six are even, the goalies are even, but the bottom six is where the factor becomes a big change. As I said before, I think. I don't know. I really am not impressed with the Sedins in the postseason for some reason. It's just them in the postseason. I don't get it. Burroughs and Kessler are the guys I'm a little more worried about. Defensively, they're not as good as they were a couple of years ago. No Ehrhoff this time. They do got, I believe, Jason Garrison, dangerous guy. And I know BX has kind of been fighting injury, but BX is a legit player. No denying that. Our defensemen are much better than last time. Better than seeing Nicholas Volin and Kent Huskins on the team. I do know. Thank goodness they're not there. This time we got Jason Demers. Hopefully he's healthy and all that stuff. Got a little bit of Matt Irwin. Got some kids playing. And we were kind of rebuilding on the fly here. We sold off some assets with expiring contracts. We were able to get some value out of it. We're still able to contend for now. Most people said our window closed, and that's fine. Let them believe that. And I really believe this is the last opportunity, the last stand for guys like Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau. I really don't see this team staying those top forwards. We're going to probably switch to building the team around Logan Couture and Joe Pavelski in the near future. Which brings me to another point, the forwards. Mr. Brent Burns. That's the biggest difference from the series 2 years ago. Brent Burns as a forward. He's got to bring some tenacity. He's got to bring some real intense gameplay I hope he brings to the table, because I feel we're a much better team than that team from 2 years ago in terms of personnel. I know we haven't been winning as much, but they have the right skilled forwards, just that the chemistry hasn't come together at times. They've had issues passing. They'll take some weak shots. Sometimes they'll take some really poor shots, but they'll pad up a lot of shots, but are they good or not? I think we can match up against their defense, though. That's not as good as it used to be a couple seasons ago. So this will be an interesting battle. I think as I said, bottom six is where it really gets interesting, and who knows what out of this series. But it's going to be close. And I know I might say it sound arrogant. My team may look better, but I'm pretty humble. This series is going to be pretty even. I think it'll go 6 or 7 games for the most part. I'm not going to say who's going to win, but the Sharks got to win their puck battles, and they got to not rely on Antti Niemi to stand on his head. That's the biggest key to this series, is that they got to know how to pass. Their passing has got to be fluid. They got to, obviously the penalty kill is much better than last season and 2 years ago. The penalty killing, thanks to Larry Robinson, has been big, so I'm happy for that. Our power play unit is all right. Our offense has been streaky, though, and said before, we've depended on Antti Niemi all season long to win games. I'm not saying we can't depend on him, but we should not depend on him to shut out the opponent. That's what I felt we were doing last time we played against the Blues. So take it for what it is. I think this will be a tough series. Now, in this long video, I am going to talk about the rest of the playoffs, just picking the other 7 playoff series. So without further ado, here we go. First of all, starting off with the Kings and the Blues. That's going to be a favorable matchup for the LA Kings. I know it's easy to put the regular season parts and the wins in order, but back to the Sharks series, the three wins against Canucks don't mean anything in the playoffs. But I think the Kings match up very well against the Blues. This is the nice nightmare matchup for the Blues because they would probably own the Sharks head-to-head. I think the Blues are a nightmare matchup for us. We can't win those puck battles, but the Kings, they probably were going to be able to score at will against them, and I could see Kings in 5. Going on to the next series, Ducks and Red Wings. Red Wings, I predicted they weren't going to make the playoffs, and they did, and they proved me wrong thanks to a 4-game win streak at the end of the year. So credit is given where credit is due. They barely pulled it out, despite being owned by the Blue Jackets. They had more points than them. That's all that matters. The Ducks rode off a very hot streak to start the year, and they just kind of kept that. And really, I'm not impressed with the Ducks in the big picture. I think the Red Wings can take this series because they're hot, and the Ducks are kind of going sideways. I know they have the skilled players. They signed Ryan Getzlaf, Corey Perry to long-term deals. You got to keep your franchise players, but a little bit of overpay and cap hit. I'm not saying they're overrated, but boy, that is a heavy price to pay to keep their players. I'm going to say Red Wings in 6. Going on to the other one, Blackhawks versus Wild. This should be a no-brainer. The Wild, I also thought they weren't going to make the playoffs, and they barely got in on the last day thanks to a win against, I believe it was against the Avalanche. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they got a late win on the last day, made sure they held off the Blue Jackets. I'm not impressed with their chemistry overall. They had some nice wins here and there, and they started out well, but they're an up-and-down team. By the way, I don't miss Danny Heatley. Thanks for taking him. And I know now he's out, thanks to Mark-Edward Vlasic. The Wild, not impressed with them, despite all that free agency hoopla that they got last offseason. Blackhawks are a much more well-rounded team, and I'd say the Blackhawks in 5. So that's it for the Western Conference. Let's move over to the East. First off, the Islanders and the Penguins. Hey, congrats to the Islanders on breaking the drought. Obviously, it's not as long as some team, the Edmonton Oilers, who have the longest drought. Sucks for you, Mr. Steve Tambellini. I'm getting fired, but Islanders and Penguins. I think the Islanders, they've had a great season. I think John Tavares should be in the Hart Trophy conversation. Yeah, they got a nice amount of kids, and they got a nice core going. In terms of the future, they got a lot of kids out there, and they're going the homegrown route. Props to Snow for inheriting a bad mess, making the most of it. The Penguins, though, are a little more well-rounded. I expect them to win the series, but hey, it's the playoffs. You never know. Seeding doesn't really, and home ice advantage don't matter as much. Islanders got heart. I'll give them that. I think the Islanders can make it pesky, maybe, but they're going to have to depend on their offense because I don't see them stopping so many skilled players of the Penguins. So I'm going to say Penguins in 6. I think the Islanders are going to put up some fight, but it's not going to be a huge fight. Maple Leafs and Boston Bruins. Welcome back to the playoffs, Toronto Maple Leafs. The first time since 2004. I believe that was so many years ago that I can't even remember. HD did not even exist. The first Maple Leafs playoff game in high definition will happen this week. They've had a long drought, and the longest drought has ended now. As I said before, to the Edmonton Oilers. Maple Leafs are an interesting team. They got, obviously, a nice young core going. Dave Nonis took over as GM. Nazem Kadri's been having a great year, and so has Phil Kessel. Problem is, it's against the Boston Bruins. That's a team that has their number, and you expect Boston to just tear them apart. I'm going to say Boston in 5. It is really tempting to say Boston's going to sweep them, but I think the Leafs are going to have enough heart to win 1. But hey, the Leafs have had a great season. It sucks they're paired up against Boston, and their perspective, yeah, it's about time. We'll see what James Reimer can do in the postseason. The whole city and the mecca of hockey is back in the postseason. The Montreal Canadiens and the Ottawa Senators. A very, very interesting battle up north, way up northeast. I think that's the most northeastern point in hockey, that those two teams playing each other. Senators had a great year. For all the people they've lost, like Jason Spezza and Erik Karlsson for most of the year, major props. And even they lost Craig Anderson for a good portion of this season. Looks like the Senators just have a million goalies that can reload. They've been playing well, and they got a lot of youth. So props to McLean. I think he should get the head coach of or Jack Adams Coach of the Year award. Montreal Canadiens. It's tempting to say Michael Therrien gets the award for bringing a team to the second seed in the East. He won the Northeast Division. Canadiens, they've had a decent scoring group with Gallagher and now Galchenyuk. Thomas Plekanec, thanks to my fantasy pool. He's been helping me out, definitely, from that spot. But the Canadiens, they've been kind of going sideways a little bit near the end of the year. They had a good start. They were able to beat the Boston Bruins, and I'll give them credit where credit's due there. But I think the Senators are going to be a little bit better. They're riding that fire, and Karlsson is back. So I actually think the Senators, even though they're going to have 7 road games to play, yes, Habs fans are going to take over that Scotiabank building up in Ottawa. So I'm going to say Senators in 6. I think the Senators are going to make it. No, sorry, Senators in 7. I think they're going to make it very, very interesting with the goalie tandem they got. And Carey Price, obviously he's good, but he has not been great. And I think the Ottawa Senators just have the heart to beat the Habs. Lastly, the New York Rangers and the Washington Capitals. I think it's really funny. John Tortorella has played the Washington Capitals every time he's made a trip to the postseason. And it's no different. Four out of 5 years he's taken them to the playoffs. And each time he's going to play the Washington Capitals and run into Alex Ovechkin. This time, once again, unlike last year, they're actually an underdog. And the Rangers have been an inconsistent team all year long. Sure, they got Rick Nash, but they actually traded Marian Gaborik, gave up on him. Picked up a little bit of supporting cast in terms of just supporting players from the Blue Jackets. And it's improved their offense a little bit. And Ryan Clough, of course, added it for toughness. And he got some goals after struggling in San Jose. He's actually been scoring a little bit. But it doesn't take away for the Rangers' offense. Their power play, their offense has been a joke still. It's still been struggling. They're depending on Mr. Henrik Lundqvist to win games for them the most. For the Capitals, on the other hand, they've had a slow start. A very, very slow start, for that matter. I believe the Winnipeg Jets were leading the division at one point. The Hurricanes started well before they fell apart. And the Capitals just benefit from the rest of that division sucking balls. Which, thank goodness, next year they're not going to be. There is no Southeast Division. So the Capitals are right now hot. Alex Ovechkin is actually playing very well. Should be in the Hart Trophy conversation with his second half. Capitals are clicking on all cylinders in the second half of the year. And the Rangers are just too inconsistent. I don't see the Rangers doing a whole lot this postseason. They're going to ride that disappointment after expecting to be a cup contender. I'm going to say Capitals in 5. I don't think the Rangers are going to do a whole lot because their offense is poor. Braden Holtby should be playing well for the Caps, so Capitals in 5. Lastly, the matchup of the Florida Panthers versus the Philadelphia Flyers. What Panthers and Flyers? What is this doing here? These teams are not even in the playoffs, and we even have a team that doesn't even exist in the NHL anymore. What's that doing here? Sorry about that. Excuse the errors there. Let me edit that out. Okay, that's much better. Sorry about those technical difficulties. There you have it. I have, so pretty much I told you what I have in the playoffs. Let me know what you guys think in the playoff series, who you have, and also for this series, who do you have? I want to hear from the neutrals and Sharks fans. Maybe some things I forgot. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. We'll see you guys later. Go Sharks, and I'll be having talks game by game by game for the Sharks. So, see you guys later.